Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Grid Live Formula E Championship Race Weekend. Joshua Birch from Joshua Birch Motorsports. I know you, Ed, were just calling the race. Hopefully, Ed will be able to join us. Already comment in the chat room. Morning, gentlemen. Kudos to everyone on their sleeping schedule. Yes, it's been a little bit of an odd one, as I mentioned. Ed Hunter from Formula E Zone is joining us as well. And before we start, of course, a big thank you to our Patreon subscribers calling the show, Mark and Robin, for keeping us on the air all year long, and especially as we start to get towards the end of wrapping up this Formula E season. You too can invest in the Grid Network, help us keep on the air, or buy me a coffee, buy one of us a coffee. I think all three of us, we could use coffee at various points. It's very early morning for you guys, 2 a.m. here in Portland, but we had a great race starting off with. Prior to this race, we had 4 championship contenders this morning. John-Eric Vergne, he was eliminated in qualifying. He didn't get the pole. Eduardo Montoya was eliminated after a punctured tire in the first race today. And then Mitch Evans, he takes the win. Vandoorne takes 5th place. Neither one of them got the fastest lap bonus. So Evan, despite looking dominant, Vandoorne still leads with 21-point lead going into tomorrow's race. Joshua, can Mitch Evans do another weekend sweep and take the pole?
I think he really could. We've seen him do it in Rome earlier on this season, and that's sort of a big hope for him as well to do it again. And from today as well, straight from when the lights went out, he got a demon start, even with Roland having that error, because when Roland left the grid, it happened with he hit the wet patch on the paint as well, so it just bogged down and the battery never gave him any energy. So even so, it was a great start from Evans as well. Then he took Degrassi into turn 2 as well. Kobe saying, buy me a coffee too. Sun is almost coming up here on the East Coast. I can feel that. This, to be honest with you, the comment as well to begin with is, what sleep schedule? I was at my mum's 60th birthday party last night as well. I got in at 1 a.m. We had guests back at the house who didn't leave until 3 a.m. and qualifying started at 3:30 a.m. I got an hour's sleep between qualifying because it was unusable because my voice was dead. I've nursed it back, thankfully, for the race. But no, everyone's a bit knackered here on the Grid Network, and we're all looking forward to some nice, refreshing sleep before another busy one tomorrow. But I think if anybody is going to sleep very soundly tonight, as it's 6:24 over in South Korea, it will be Mitch Evans. He's got a shot at the title, but Vandoorne's 21 points ahead. But Evans so far this year has done the double. The only, I think, Prost and someone else going to remind me of in a minute.
Sam Bird.
There we go, New York. There we go. See that? Ed's on it. They're the only two to do the double, and Mitch Evans did it earlier on this season in Rome, so it stands to reason he could do it again in Formula E's 100th race tomorrow morning.
Oh, am I supposed to speak now? All right, okay. I was there on the wall until that point. Great handover. Great job, Ed.
Sorry, we're all tired. We are all tired.
Just need to think about what I was going to say there. And Day in the Life points out, don't forget the red flag that delayed the race and made it a long broadcast. Thank goodness for VPN. Well, we cannot endorse that here on the Grid Network or at Formula E Zone. But it was great that you watched the race. I'm sorry that there were so many barriers put in the way to watching it. But I would never advocate anything illegal. Certainly not on stream and certainly not in front of my friends. But yeah, I agree. Great start by Mitch Evans. Great qualifying as well, actually. Oliver Rowland did a fantastic job to take pole position for Mahindra. First pole he's taken for Mahindra, of course. Mahindra's first pole of the season. They nearly got pole in Berlin with Alexander Sims, of course. Sims, of course, is retiring at the end of the season. And it was Lucas Degrassi who was alongside him, who, of course, is going to join Mahindra next season, as we found out yesterday. That being just announced. So he's basically the replacement for Sims at that Indian team. And Oliver Rowland, of course, made a difficult start because he was on the, as I think you said, Josh, in the commentary, and it was said on the broadcast as well, that Oliver Rowland basically was on the paint, which didn't give us good traction. So the wheels spun. He saw Evans going around the outside of him, Degrassi too. Degrassi held the lead into turn 1, and then Evans simply made a very aggressive dive up the inside, which is very risky because there wasn't a lot of grip offline, especially in the wet. And we saw that at the end of the first lap when there was that huge pileup that caused a red flag. And it was really that opening start that kind of defined the race, because once Evans got in the lead, all he had to do, but it wasn't easy at all. All he had to do was really hold it throughout the remainder, because with attack mode, Roland couldn't quite get close enough because Evans could sort of wait a lap and always respond to what those behind were doing. And Vandoorne, for his part, had a pretty good race actually to recover. Mortara and Verne got into a bit of a tussle with one another, which Mortara was penalised for. And then, as you said, Joe, I'm distracted by that comment there about, am I surprised by Degrassi switching teams? I think a lot of people were. I'd sort of heard a few rumblings that ever since Sims had decided for a lot of, he was very opening up a lot about it in interviews we did with Formula E Zone about some mental well-being. That I think he said that he was very hard on himself for some of the bad performances. He sort of said that we've been struggling and I don't really know why. And there's some days where I do really well and I also don't know why. And he was saying that he just didn't have that much confidence and that he felt much more at home in endurance racing. That's sort of where the car's a bit more predictable and it's more rewarding for Alexander Sims to drive. So that's the reason why Sims is quitting. I think Degrassi sort of knew there wasn't going to be a space for him when Venturi next season becomes the Maserati team. And I think that's what's motivated his decision to go to Mahindra. And it makes absolute sense why Mahindra would want him, because he's such a decorated, such an experienced and such a successful Formula E driver, Season 3 champion, of course, Drivers' Champion, has helped Audi to the Teams Championship in Season 4. Venturi currently second in the Teams Championship as well, so looking good for the runner-up spot at least. But yeah, back to Eduardo Mortara. I think he was going to be eliminated after this race anyway, but the puncher made absolutely sure, because I think he was behind Vandoorne and would have been out of the mathematical contention anyway. He was realistically out of even going into the weekend. He told Jack Pickering for Formula E Zone, basically, I don't care about the championship. I just want to end the season on a high, which hopefully he's still got another day to do that. And Alexander Sims, who I was talking about earlier, also ending in the wall with that final safety car, which meant the race ended. Evans had saved enough energy. I think he had it in hand, but it meant it's ended with no real overtaking anyway. So certainly a lot to talk about, but I felt the race was a little bit kind of defined by that first lap, and from then on it was quite tense, but not too much going on up front other than...
Oh, we lost him.
We just lost him with a little bit of technical difficulties. One question, Josh, wondering if you know, we were hoping to ask Ed, is it true that Mahindra offered Degrassi a team management role? I think that's really interesting. We know he brings a lot of experience. He's very vested in Formula E. Do you think this could maybe have some truth to it?
I think it could, because Lucas Degrassi is very much heavily involved in running Robo Race, which is the engineering championship where there's no driver in the car, and he's very passionate about that. He has managed several other drivers and he's done some team things as well in the past. So I think it stands to reason that he could have been offered a managerial role going forward. And I think it's a very good deal as well to go there, because then you still get to drive and then you get to do your other passion of managing teams and sort of get two paychecks, if you will, for one thing. So I think there is actually a bit of truth to that as well. And I think anything can help the Mahindra structure get a little bit tighter after this season. Their worst season on record. And this, with Roland second, was their first podium of the year completely.
Yeah, not the Mahindra we usually see with at least a couple wins. Far from the days where it seems like when we had Felix Rosenquist game win after win, then that inconsistency came in and championships were out of sight. Speaking about a championship, going back to the championship scenario, pretty much a must-win situation for Mitch Evans. 21 points behind. He needs Vandoorne to finish ninth place or worse if he wins the race and doesn't collect any of the bonus points. The bonus points on the line, there's 4 of them total. 3 we get the pole, 1 for the fastest lap. There's also this chance too, there could be a tie in the championship, but we know Mitch Evans, he has 4 wins right now. If he was to get a 5th win, Vandoorne only has 1 win. Does this mean, similar to what we see in F1 and other series, Mitch Evans will get the tiebreaker and the championship for the most wins?
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on. I was doing the mental calculations as well on a post-it note here while you and Ed were talking in the last question. I just made sure as well, 3 points for topping the group stages and getting pole position, 1 point for the fastest lap as well. And if Evans finishes second as well, Vandoorne is ninth. You're going to get 2 points there. That cancels each other out. So if Vandoorne is ninth and Evans is second and they're level on points, Evans wins the title on the count back for having more wins. And do you see how easy that can be? I mean, Vandoorne today finished fifth, but started seventh, and then on the restart, dropped back into eighth position. And with more rain predicted tomorrow, we saw how the rain affected qualifying as well. And maybe one day I'll release the very groggy footage of me commentating on that session as well with no voice at all. It was literally like air was just coming out, no voice. So that was a fun one. But as I did say during that commentary as well, the rain has played a massive gamble in the championship, and it's more rain predicted tomorrow during qualifying in the race as well. So that could again hurt the Mercedes. We know it doesn't do well in wet weather conditions. There's something with that setup that doesn't work. So Vandoorne could start the race in 10th. He might not even get the duels at all. And Evans could take another pole position, which I think is more likely. So it's not over yet. It's not over. 21 points in a modern day situation is not that big of a gap.
Yeah, modern day situation, and then day in life. Thoughts on the driver with 1 win, Vandoorne, taking the championship over a 4-time winner. So the scenario, as you mentioned, if Vandoorne's 5th place, that's a good spot where no matter what happens, he gets a championship with only 1 win. I say the consistency speaks for itself in that one. I still think he's a deserving champion. What do you think, Joshua?
Well, I saw your comment in the YouTube chat that me and Ed were commentating on as well, saying about how it's very similar to the NASCAR with was it Carl Larson?
2003, Ryan Newman 6 wins, and then Matt Kenseth 1 win, and he took the championship. That was the last time before the playoffs came in.
Yeah, and I think we're in a similar situation as well. When I read that comment out, I mentioned to Ed as well. What's your opinion on this as well? I personally think that Mitch Evans has deserved the championship a bit more this year because he's done some fantastic. Every race he's won has been just domination and an absolute classic to watch. Whereas Vandoorne has kept himself to himself and been Mr. Consistent throughout the year. So we've got 2 different styles of approaching a world championship meeting in the finale. And I personally think as well, I would rather have Mitch Evans winning. But if we go down that route, then it's the Bernie Ecclestone medal system that he had in 2010 for victories getting the championship. I've been impressed with Vandoorne taking the title. De Vries did the same thing last year in Berlin. He was Mr. Consistent throughout the year, only with 2 wins, and got the title because 14 drivers that day went in for a hunt with the title, and he still got the best consistency, finished 5th in both races.
Best in both races, and a comment from Real Eric Mars from Twitch. Thank you for tuning in. There's always small things that could affect the championship. Very, very true. And day in the life. Good to see Vandoorne get the championship recognized by the FIA. Of course, this is the 2nd year, I believe, there's a FIA World Championship. So very excited. And we got Edward Hunter joining us back again. Edward, we were just talking about Mitch Evans, his road to the championship. He has 4 wins. He could get a 5th, but he needs some luck. Thoughts on potentially Mitch Evans not getting a championship if Stoffel Vandoorne gets just enough points and only has that 1 win?
Well, Vandoorne's been very consistent across the whole season. I'm sorry I've had to turn the video off. It's just because my laptop's been overheating. I know it's only about 27 degrees, but for UK weather, that's basically a heat wave. So it's completely melted my laptop. But on Vandoorne and Evans, Vandoorne has been really consistent this season. I think it's very rare that he finishes outside the sort of top 5 or so this year. That he always seems to get the points that he needs. And even if he starts lower down the grid, even today he gained positions as we saw. Whereas I think Mitch Evans has had a couple of races where the Jaguar has been a bit kind of AWOL, as they say, absent without leave. And Mexico comes to mind, where basically they sort of they thought it was going to be 1 lap longer than it was because Porsche got the race a lap shorter. So Mitch Evans dropped out the points there. A couple other races like Berlin. I think Berlin, they sort of struggled to a couple of points here and there, and Berlin's just not a track that suits the Jaguar particularly well. And are there any others? There's a couple of times that the Jaguar's just not qualified well, and Evans has given himself a lot of work to do. But I agree, those wins that he's taken have been superb. So I think Evans is probably the more eye-catching driver this season, but I think Vandoorne has been overall a bit more consistent. I think just looking at the wins is perhaps slightly misleading in my opinion. I think if Vandoorne wins it tomorrow, and it looks very likely that he will with the lead that he's got, 21 points, I don't think it would be undeserved. I would feel a little bit sorry, because Josh, you asked me this at the end of the commentary, I would feel a little bit sorry for Mitch Evans because there have been things out of his control. For instance, that car failure he had at the end of the second London E-Prix while he was running in 4th ahead of Vandoorne. I think that was very, very unlucky. And there have been, like I said, other instances where Jaguar have just been sort of caught on the back foot and not really been able to respond, like in Mexico and like in a couple of other places as well. So, but I think overall there have been some real highs this season for Jaguar and Mitch Evans, and unfortunately, they're not really in contention for the team's championship. I think Mercedes are probably going to wrap that up as well. But certainly Venturi, I think Degrassi would have gained a lot of points on them today. So I think the teams is certainly a bit tighter than it was going in. It was 36 points there as well. And I think Lucas would have gained 15 and Vandoorne would only have gotten, let's see, how many points are there for 5th again? About 10. So yeah, it would have gained 5 points. So it's a 31 point gap in the team's championship. There we go. Some live maths. I know that wasn't the question you asked you, but I
was doing live maths anyway, Ed. Trying to work
just
it out
in case my computer dies again.
Not a problem. A couple of comments in the chat room. Thank you everyone for commenting. Slowcroft 881. Consistency is one thing, but I must give my highest bet on the underdogs. And then day in the life, his car number is 5. That's Vandoorne, I believe. We've been talking about 5th place finish. Maybe he could do it. South of Vandoorne trying to get that championship. One driver that's been trying to get the championship, but his effort has come to an end. Eduardo Montara, championship hopes ended with a flat tire. And it's really interesting. Montara, the beginning part of the season, looked really strong. Mitch Evans, really nowhere in sight until we got to Rome, where he swept the weekend. Then it just seems Mitch Evans has been on a tear. Montara, the last few races, just not where he wants to be. Not exactly qualifying well. Today's qualifying effort, a little bit towards the back. He still got into the top 8, but just not overall a good few weeks. Josh was starting. Were you surprised by how Montara was not contention today? He seems to love these street courses. Like I remember Hong Kong, he was really good at. And then the penalty he got today, it just seemed like a very uncharacteristic mistake.
Me and Ed were talking about that penalty in the commentary, and Ed said that it was more Verne going for that move on the inside line rather than what we saw from Mortara. And I was inclined to agree. Mortara was defending his position, and it was sort of Verne diving up the inside extremely late. That gave that sort of the dive bomb effect, and the stewards ruled in against Mortara, and I disagree with them on that basis because that's penalising good racing. I would have penalised Verne personally, and that 5-second time penalty was a joke. Need to sort that out. in terms of how uncompetitive he was today, it shocked me. It really did, because he couldn't get through, could he? He held up Pascal Wehrlein for a number of the race as well, so he kept that position, but he wasn't attacking either. He was always on the defense of Wehrlein throughout that race, and then he got that puncture. He didn't hit the wall. It looked like the tire just let go, so that's very rare for one of those Michelin tires to go through. So that was a different situation there, but I know Ed's got a little bit of a lag, so I'm preparing him now for the sink in, and I'll end it, Ed, with saying that I think Mortara tomorrow will be driving for his own situations as well, and he's going to be a real thorn in the side of everybody, because he's going to want to leave the season on a high. Might have gone completely.
May have gone completely. Couple comments in the chat room from Real Eric Mars. A win is a win. You must respect that. Hard work tends to show on game day. And then from Slope, that flat tire didn't affect anything. The win will come soon. I think referring to Mortara. Definitely big thank you to everyone chatting in the
hopefully
chat.
I'm not talking over you there. Set up and
go on, Ed, go. Yeah, this is the downside to commentating on Formula E, with it all being very delayed. So we might have to just sit here silently for a second. Oh, he's just been. Well, this is the 2-hour red flag. It's baked his laptop as well. I feel awful for him as well as it comes through. I got any more comments when he gets back in?
Well, definitely. I know. I got to say, when it comes to Mortara, I feel like he almost feels like the underdog Venturi. They were, I believe, one of the last Formula E teams to get a win from that first season. This year, they just seem to really be at it. Last year, we know he was a contender for the championship until, ironically, Mitch Evans, the no start, the contact. To see Mortara's season come to an end with a flat tire and the championship hopes gone, tough break for him. That team, they put in a lot of effort, but I think they got a bright future ahead with the fact that Maserati's coming in. Encourage everyone tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment in the chat room. We'll love to answer your questions about Formula E. One of the big things we saw, we talked about the red flag a lot. That was because we saw a huge crash on that first lap. We saw 8 cars go in the wall. It sounds like up to 10 cars were involved with beating and banging during that incident. Buemi, he went into the wall, and then Nick DeVries pushed and went under his car. So a bit of a scary moment. Thankfully, everyone was okay. 6 cars were out of the race. None of the point contenders when it came to the top 3, but we did saw essentially Mortara. He went out, so that means you had Mortara out, Nick DeVries out. So then you only had Degrassi, Vandoorne, Mercedes. They looked poised to get the championship and take essentially the team's championship as well, and then leave, because this is their last year in Formula E. Overall, your thoughts on the potential of the drivers in the team championship headed out, with Vandoorne taking the drivers, leaving, and then Mercedes saying, okay, thank you, Formula E, we're gone.
All right, can you take this on, Josh?
Okay, no worries, mate.
And then I'll jump in.
Okay, no worries. Glad to hear you back. Yeah, with this as well, I don't like the fact that Mercedes has just sort of abandoned Formula E. I mean, that's not really good. I know they've probably got the most out of it they possibly can at this stage of its development, but they're leaving before Gen 3 comes in, which is going to shake up all of the battery regulations once again. We could be going back to a lapped counter race as well. The batteries could be lasting more than an hour as well. They've been talking about faster regen charges, the possibility of some point over the next couple of years of bringing in pit stops where the batteries get recharged over the course of 30 seconds again, and we can go double the amount of time as well. Real Eric says as well, and why do you... Sorry, I need to put my glasses on. My eyes are gone.
Who do you think would have won if the crash didn't happen?
It definitely would have been Mitch Evans anyway. Evans had that.
Which crash is my question there?
Yeah, there was loads.
Is it the one at the start or Sims at the end or Mortara getting the puncher? That's 3 to choose from.
Evans, like all of them, I would put on that. He had it
Exactly,
throughout.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the fact that Mercedes are leaving. And I don't like the fact that McLaren are coming in to take that slot either, because it feels a bit like we could have had McLaren and Mercedes there as two different teams and bumped the grid up to 24. But we're going to keep it at 22.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I sort of feel like McLaren probably wouldn't have joined if Mercedes had stayed. Personally, I feel like they were very hesitant, and I'm just getting messages. Apparently, we've only got 4 interviews from the media pen that Piquet's been able to do in Seoul. So, but that's 4 good interviews. I'll be interested to see who he got. Unfortunately, Mitch Evans. He tried to get Mitch Evans, and apparently the media PR guy turned him away and said that Mitch had to go somewhere. So he only got 15 minutes in the media pen. But anyway, that's by the by. Mercedes leaving. I sort of wasn't all that torn up about Mercedes leaving because I felt like there was an interesting press release I read about the time they were leaving. And they basically said a couple of points from, I think, one of the executives from the Mercedes-Benz, the Daimler board, basically. I forget his name. But he said something like, oh, well, we get so much more exposure from Formula One. We won Formula E in our debut season as well, was what he said at the end of season 7, which is not true because they did season 6 as a full manufacturer and they did HWA in season 5 as a sort of toe in the water kind of thing. There's a lot of the infrastructure and the same sort of same team principal, Ian James, and same sort of basic sort of group from HWA is sort of a lot of that infrastructure and obviously Stoffel Vandoorne still there from the beginning. So that feels like a very odd comment from someone who probably doesn't watch any Formula E. I feel like there's a big disconnect between the execs who make all the money, make all the decisions, I guess, at the top of the Daimler-Benz board, and the racing people like Ian James, Toto Wolff, etc., who seem much more committed. And indeed, Ian James is staying on as team principal when it becomes, regrettably, I hate saying Neon McLaren, but that's what they are. And I've talked a bit about my distaste with Neon becoming a title sponsor of that team. I think that's the one big downside, really, that it's kind of effectively it's the McLaren team. And since McLaren have sold lots of shares to Saudi Arabia's public investment firm, it's effectively the Saudi team, which I'm not sure how. I dislike the argument where what would the founder have thought if he was around today, because it feels like putting words in the mouth. But I'm not sure this is exactly what Bruce McLaren had in mind when he started the team. Entering Formula E, absolutely, but partnering up with a deeply questionable regime, I'm not sure Bruce McLaren would have been on board with that. But I know times change. People need to do what they have to do to get money to keep the show on the road. But I've talked about it before, and I don't want to turn into another rant about it. But I think it's I can't wholeheartedly support McLaren next season. Barely
McLaren
can really support Mercedes. So I'm sort of then they started the whole sort of sponsorship with Neon, which it's just only grown now that McLaren have taken over. But I think there will be I think it'll be sad if we lose people like Nick De Vries and some of the sort of engineering staff. Am I lagging behind again? I'm sorry.
Slightly, but not too bad.
But just to finish off, I think there's it's sad to see Mercedes go in a way, but I'm optimistic about the future, and I think it's good. The team and the entry is still there, and it'll be interesting to see which end of the pit lane they end up at, because obviously it's a new entry, but they'll go in as reigning champions. It's a bit weird, bit.
I hear you. A couple comments in the chat room. I had the privilege to see the engines in person when I was younger. And then, what was your first experience in race in person? Josh, you want to take that first, I guess?
First one for me, it's actually at my local Tesco's, funnily enough. And that's not in terms of it was a bunch of boy racers in hopped up hot hatches. No, it was a promotional tour in 2001 for the McLaren F1 team. and David Coulthard was there. Don't know why, but he was. And his car was there. And I sat in David Coulthard's 2000 Formula One car. And I can remember that in Tesco as well. And that was always there. I was like, in a little corner Tesco in Grimsby, and David Coulthard's there with his car. I think he was going down to Cadwell the next day for some more promotional stuff. So that was the first time I ever saw an F1 car. I've seen them on television before, obviously. But my first racing experience came at Donington in 2017 as a birthday present. I was taken there by my uncle, and that was my first race day experience at the British GT3 Championship and Formula 3 Championship. But my first time at a racetrack was actually a track day at Cadwell Park a couple of months before that. And I went there to film a documentary, The Chronicles of Cadwell Park, for a college thing. And although my bits were good, I'm not really that proud of the end result. I think I could do it much better now, but that was about 7 years ago now. So I do protest a bit too much. But that was my first racing experience.
Amazing. I've been to a couple Tesco's when I visited London, so I know what you're talking about. Day in the life, Indy 500 with Dad and Grandpa. That has to be spectacular. My first time, it was Alaska State Fair. It was the Demolition Derby. So they raced in a bunch of vehicles, and then they just crashed them all up. I know, not exactly world-class racing, but definitely. And question from the chat room was first racing experience. I figured, it'd be cool to share. What was your first racing experience?
My first race experience that I can remember is I was about 5 or 6. My dad came in, and I'd sort of gotten into Formula One through just having to watch it on TV. Became obsessed with it very quickly, and my dad turned up on a Friday, I think, because we couldn't go over the weekend or so, and he said, "Right, we're going to Goodwood Festival of Speed," and we did it. It was amazing. This was like 2002, I think. So,
great, yeah, that one.
It was, yeah, and it sort of became this thing we would go sort of every year as well. And I sort of got my granddad in, who sadly is no longer with us. And in fact, London last weekend was the first motorsport event I've been to since my granddad passed away. So it was quite emotional for me in that sense. On top of all the political stuff about Battersea and how we spent years and years trying to move it to Excel as well. So. And I sort of didn't realize, it didn't feel real to me, even though I know we commentated last year and I did the thing, I'll eat my hat if London E-Prix happens in my lifetime again. And it did happen, and I pretended to eat the hat, and it was very funny. But it didn't feel real until that morning where I had to wake up and write, right, I'm going into the Excel, and it's actually happening. And I didn't expect to be as emotional as I was, and I think maybe it was sort of stuff that I've been bottling up for a while since my granddad passed away. But that very first experience of going to Goodwood, I think that really, I think it did change me. I think I was obsessed about it on TV before, but I think going in person, there's something about being there, about being in that atmosphere. And it wasn't particularly competitive, Goodwood. I think they still had the hill climb times, but it wasn't like circuit racing. I think has a different kind of atmosphere to it, and there's a bit more to focus on. Whereas, in terms of competition, whereas I think the Goodwood Hill, it's a bit more relaxed. There's lots of sounds. There's lots of people who just want you to be interested in their cars, essentially, because they're trying to sell them, or they just they've got something fast and they want to show off how far their engineering prowess or whatever. And it's just such a great atmosphere, such a great event. And I think for the first time, I think it's very friendly for kids as well, as I found. And they even had the wacky races. I remember that first year. I think they still do them, where they sort of built life-size version of all the cars from the Wacky Races cartoon. So that's my first memory. Hopefully I'm not lagging too far behind. My laptop fan has just started whirring up again. I think my cool-down efforts have failed.
Ed will be commentating tomorrow's Formula E race on his mobile at this rate.
Oh, man. Definitely, we thank everyone in the chat room. Couple of questions left when it comes.
I might just get the mobile out now because
you're right about 30 seconds. 30 seconds behind there.
Definitely, we'll be working with Ed. Of course, we encourage everyone. Formula E Zone, great coverage there from Ed. Everyone, Jack, I believe, is in Seoul, South Korea as well, covering the race. Rest of the field, we talked about the winner, Mitch Evans. Oliver Rowland, second place. Lucas Di Grassi, third place. That is your podium finishers. Jake Dennis, Stoffel Vandoorne, they round out your top 5. Then you have John-Eric Vergne, Pascal Wehrlein, Robert Frins, Antonio Felix Acosta, and Nick Cassidy from that first lap crash, top 10 finish. Then you had Gunther Nato, who was substituting for Sam Bird. They were the last ones to finish the race. Sims, of course, crashed out. Giovinazzi was in the pits, and everybody else was out from Montoro with the puncture to the first lap crash. Joshua, biggest surprise today from the race outside the championship picture that we saw?
I've got to say it's Oliver Rowland. I really do. Jake Dennis is very close on that factor as well, because they both did some great racing today. I think Norman Nato did well not to his first time in a car in over a year. And yes, he was involved in that accident, but to get back in and get the car back up into 13th is a good result. To finish it after that, I'm gonna stick with my guns and say it's Rowland and Dennis are my two big surprises from that race. Just a second place and a fourth place, and the way they were racing was really good. And I think Wehrlein as well might be up there because of his attack on Mortara constantly throughout the race. And as I said to Ed in the commentary, attack mode today didn't really feel like you're going to get past. It was very much creating the opportunity to pass, but nobody actually could. So I quite like that aspect of it. But Ed, I know you described it very much as a train out there today.
Sorry, that lag. We're just waiting for Ed. So
I did. Hopefully, I'm not too far behind. I'm going to stop now just to make sure that's being received.
We got you. He's gone.
He's gone again.
I must point out that here in the UK right now, it is quite bad heat, and it's creating a lot of problems with the Wi-Fi signals and the internet as well, because it's baking the equipment from where they're all run from, and our routers are getting incredibly hot, and our internets are causing a bit of problems. I mean, thankfully, the reason we were late on the show was because I couldn't get my equipment working, so I'm on my laptop with the headset on everything. So we are having problems here in the UK as well. So yeah, and Real says, out of all the championships, what was the one race you wish you saw in person, regardless of age and time of year? One race I wish I was there for. Adelaide 91 springs to mind. Yes, it was only 15 laps, but the sheer chaos that was that weekend springs. 89 Adelaide. Now I've picked it. The one race I wish I was there in person for, actually in the paddock, 1998 Belgium. That's got to be it. Got to be it.
That was a good one. I would say for me, it was one of the ones where it was the first time as a kid I was like, okay, this is for the championship. 1992 Hooters 500 in the NASCAR Cup Series, 6 drivers going for the championship. And the driver that was, I believe it was third or second place in the points, got it, Alan Kulwicki, without winning the race. The points leader crashed out. That got me hooked on motorsports. And then just the rest is history. And we encourage everyone to continue sharing your comments in the chat room. And especially, we're getting down towards the end of our program, but that means there's one final question left, Joshua. Pick a winner. We got one more Formula E race, same track, the track that we just saw Mitch Evans dominated. And top of the pick a winner, pick the championship. Who do you think is going to win the championship? So, Joshua, who wins the race? Who wins the championship?
Mitch Evans wins the race. Stoffel Vandoorne wins the championship. That's a safe bet, but I can't see Evans overturning it. I hope he does, but logic is telling me he's not going to. So Evans will win the race and Vandoorne will win the title. And I think it'll be very close. Very close.
I think it's going to be very close too. And in fact, today I got scored with Mitch Evans. He was my pick a winner. So I'm going to stick with him, Mitch Evans again. But Stoffel Vandoorne, I agree with you. He needs to really just have a horrible race, not score any points, and it's game over. I just don't see that unless we see something like what we saw in the first lap today, and he gets caught up in somebody else's trouble. But I think he's going to qualify towards the front, better effort compared to today, and get that championship that, as some folks have been saying in the chat room, well deserved. And just in time for Ed Hunter.
Hey.
Who do you think is going to win tomorrow's race and win the championship? It's pick a winner.
Oof. In terms of the race, I've got to answer quickly before my laptop overheats and stops working again. I tried to use it on my phone there, but apparently I'd not set up things properly. So I'm sorry if you saw random account logging in. That was me.
No worries.
I think, I have a feeling in terms of the race win, I think Nick Cassidy will win the race because I think he was a bit unlucky. He didn't qualify too well. And I think in a more normal qualifying session, I think he might come out on top as he did in New York. And as for the championship, hard to look past Stoffel Vandoorne. And I imagine Josh has probably said similar, but I think Mitch Evans will probably finish near the podium again. But I think Stoffel Vandoorne will just scrape the points that he needs. And I think Mitch Evans will get close, but will just miss out.
Identical.
Well, I didn't know what you'd said, so
I said Evans would win the race, but Vandoorne would win the title, and it'd be very close between them.
Well, that would be ideal, but I have a feeling because Formula is a little bit more competitive and random than that something else crazy will happen.
Rain, flooding.
Yep, it won't be more normal. I don't know why I put that in there because it's certainly not going to be a more normal qualifying. It's going to be could even get washed out again, and in that case, it certainly would be handed to Vandoorne.
At least we all get to sleep in.
That would be true. Yeah, especially because we've got endurance commentary next time, Josh.
Yes, come every few hours.
Endurance commentary, a lot going on. We encourage everyone, be sure to click the links in the video description for Joshua Burst's channel and Formula E Zone on YouTube. And be sure to subscribe to us right here on YouTube as well, because later today, it's already past midnight, Grid Life race for the NASCAR Cup Series race with Kobe Lambeth from the podium finish. Ben Schneider and Adam Lemreys are going to preview the NASCAR race at Richmond. And, of course, the best way to help us stay on the air, visit our Patreon, contribute like Colin the Show, Mark and Robin. They have been giving us monthly contributions, investing in the Grid Network all year long. And if you want to do a one-time contribution, buy me a coffee. Link in the video description to both of those. And, of course, we're all over social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch. Thank you to our Twitch watchers, viewers today. Facebook, LinkedIn. We got a couple opportunities if you want to be part of the Grid Network. And our sponsor, Public.com. Use the referral code GRIDnet. Get $5 to invest in the stock market. They got podcast tools to learn about investing in the stock market. Meet your current friends, make new friends, all on the stock market social media's homepage. Public.com, referral code GRIDnet. And another comment in the chat room, quote, great statement. Not exactly sure which one that is, but definitely.
Great stream, I think, Real Eric Mars said, which you guys are great. I feel like I've not held at my end here. I've been in and out, and I'm sorry about that. But
yeah, but that's only because
best.
That's literally only because your laptop did the Formula E and then came straight over
I think it's also been trying to render overnight, so I think the heat has just built up over a long period of time. It might just be dying.
Is that going to be all right for ERC in 2
Should be.
hours?
I think it's the StreamYard it really doesn't like for some reason today.
Okay. Right, fingers crossed then.
No, it's no offense, Joe.
Great stream. It's 3 a.m. here in Portland. I think all of us are going to have an interesting sleep schedule this weekend, but be sure, everyone, comment, like, subscribe right here to Grid Network. Be sure to follow Ed at Formula E Zone, Joshua Burst Motorsports, and definitely enjoy all the races. It's going to be a lot of fun from real F1. As long as the laptop doesn't sound like an F1 anytime soon. That's usually good advice. So.
Funnily enough, it sounds a lot like a Formula E when it's at full blast, the fans, and it happens quite regularly, especially when I'm trying to make videos, which is quite often.
I've got a microphone here. Let's see how bad mine is. If I put it to the back here. Yeah, mine's quite loud as well, actually. So
not competition.
No, I think yours wins though.
The SHT tomorrow will be a very important, crucial day for both Evans and Vandoorne. I gotta be honest, between seeing these two it feels more like a duel. I'm really excited about it compared to it was fun when we had a lot of drivers for the championship, but just these two, it just feels like Mr. Consistency versus go out there and get the win. And then actually qualifying to be one main event and could determine the fate of the championship. Yes. If Mitch Evans gets those 3 bonus points, that cuts their deficit down to 18. So that means he could finish second place.
Mitch Evans hasn't taken any poles this year, Joe. I find it a little unlikely.
Anything can happen.
Anything could happen in Formula E.
Basically, it just gives us a reason that we have to be up at ridiculous o'clock as well, just to commentate on it. 3:30 in the morning for us here in the UK, and I think was it about 11 o'clock over there, Joe, for you?
It started the coverage at 11:30, and then of course the race, the delay. But yeah, qualifying was not bad. Like 9 p.m. ish. It just the race aspect got a little late, but yeah. It'll be interesting what happens with qualifying. Of course, practice will get a good indicator. And of course, for everyone watching, be sure to comment, especially if you're on Twitter, follow Grid Ranking, pick a winner, get on the leaderboard. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're going to have a really exciting championship race. And with that said, we're all done for. Once again, a big thank you to Joshua Birch, Edward Hunter, for everyone watching today's program. We'll see you all next time and enjoy the races. Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.